are at the last video for Bad Game Summer 2022, and it is a doozy today. Thanks to everybody who watched and subscribed to the previous videos. You can support the channel in the links in the description by donation, or if you buy merchandise, use the code RAGEQUIT at checkout for 15% off. Think of it as tossing a coin to the organ grinder and his monkey. I don't really know which one I am, but I will throw my shit at people if provoked, so maybe that's a hint. So without further ado, the last game I wanted to review, and I've wanted to review this for a while now, is the infamous Drake of the 99 Dragons for the OG Xbox. It's known as one of the worst games ever made, and I tend to agree that it's definitely up there. My daughter plays games on Roblox that aren't as broken as this, and that's saying something. So I actually gave this game out as a gag gift something like 10 or 15 years ago. Even back then I thought to myself, what if I played through this whole thing just to do it? Fast forward to this year, and I bought it online for myself, and Bad Game Summer is a great excuse to do just that. Also, I think this is the gaming equivalent of ingesting Tide Pods, so. This game takes around 3 or 4 hours to get through. I lost count after a while because that's what happens when you're miserable. Everybody who watched She-Hulk knows what I'm talking about.
So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
She's the worst. She is the worst person in the world. Huge, skank, terrible.
This is a broken game from start to finish, and what starts out in this game simply enough just gets worse with every level. Like, you get fooled in the first level that this isn't quite that awful, but then you realize that each level is like entering a new, deeper circle of hell, reserved for more and more wicked people. By the end of this game, I was so ready to be done, I would scream with every death because I just wanted it to be over. And yes, I did beat this horrible game. I'm going to compare this to being tortured, like actual torture, like the type your grandpa who was in the Korean War or Vietnam won't talk about. The type Red Foreman will tell you you're not man enough to hear and then call you a dumbass for getting stoned with Kelso and Hyde in the basement. You go into it thinking, they're not going to make me talk, I'm not telling them nothing. And you feel strong, and you feel confident. You got King Kong balls. They can't break you. But by the halfway point, you're doubting your ability to stay strong. You might have teared up like a wimpy bitch once, but nobody caught you except your malcontent cat in the corner of your office. But he always looks at you like that, so whatever. But you still try to hang in there. And by the end of the game, you're willing to give up everything you care about just to make it stop. Beating it feels like you just climbed the Mount Everest of dog diarrhea. Like you just got a new lease on life. Like the steak you just sent back to the kitchen at the restaurant came back without spit on it. That girl you just went out with didn't have an Adam's apple after all, and that deeper voice is just natural. Enjoy yourself, son. You just turned a corner and you don't have monkeypox in your future. So why is Drake of the 99 F-bombs so bad? Let's take a look, shall we? I skipped the tutorial on this playthrough because I played through the tutorial once before, many moons ago. The cutscenes don't look great, but I give them credit for trying to give it this comic book aesthetic to the story. Drake is an assassin, and his clan is the 99 Dragons. Some artifact called the Soul Portal is stolen by some ghost assassin, so he slides out in the middle of the room without shooting at anything for some reason, chases after the ghost assassin, can't get the artifact back, then he comes back to find out that his entire clan is dead, and he sees the corpses of his body and his masters. So it would appear that despite being a 3,000-year-old clan, they all fight about as well as the Putty Patrol on Power Rangers. Drake's tattoo glows on his chest, and you find out it's called the Tattoo of the Undying Dragon, and it gives him immortality and fancy powers. So once that glows, he can now run up walls and slow down and freeze time. None of these things are actually useful though. You know why? Because between the awful controls and the somehow worse camera, you'll almost never be able to reach where you're going by running up a wall, and the parts of the game that require it will make you completely insane. Drake can't grab onto ledges because he's always dual-wielding guns and refuses to holster them, so that means that when you're running up a ledge, he'll bounce off of it, and it's up to you to try and force him to land where you need him to be. Sometimes he'll bounce against another wall, and maybe you'll try to run back over to the ledge again. Sometimes he'll bounce from the edge onto the ground for you like in Devil May Cry, but mostly he'll just bounce away from it and you'll scream at the game. Slowing down and stopping time is also completely worthless because when you do either of these, it slows down or stops time for you also. Yeah, that's right. What the is the point of stopping time if you're stopped too? At least with bullet time and max pain, you could get a breather for a couple seconds to aim at enemies, or you could shoot dodge out of the way of the bullets that might otherwise kill you. But the aiming in retard time is just as crippled as your enemies are, so unless you're already aiming at your enemies when you pop it, You're just drawing out the battle you're in. And if you're already aiming at them, then why are you bothering slowing down time to begin with? As I mentioned, Drake doesn't let go of his weapons. His handguns are the most reliable, but they're close range and semi-automatic, so you're going to be mashing the clickety-clackety triggers constantly while you're playing. Any fully automatic guns will miss your targets. There's no way to reload in this except by emptying your magazine, then he just drops that gun and takes another one out like he's Neo or something. The game automatically targets for you, and Drake's Muppet-like arms are almost always stretched out in front of him, pointed in some direction, and his posture looks like he's directing traffic while holding his morning coffee in. It's ridiculous to watch, and if you're playing on the Xbox, aiming for anything yourself is almost impossible, because there's no target reticle except when there's an enemy within range. In the last few levels, there's these eyeballs that have blades coming out of them that you have to shoot to get them to close temporarily. On the PC, you actually get a target reticle to help with this, but on the Xbox, the auto-targeting doesn't focus on them, so you'll have to shoot constantly while jumping to hit some of these things. More about that misery in a bit. Another ability Drake has is that he can absorb the souls of his enemies to charge up his dragon power and get health back. The game says to hit the white button to do it, but you have to actually hold the damn button down as you're killing the enemies, then they'll float over to you. So basically, how you'll play every level is by using the left analog to run around, the right analog to move the camera, the triggers to shoot, A button to jump, and you're going to use the space between your thumb and your, I don't know what it's called, thumb knuckle, I guess, I'm not a freaking doctor, to hold down white so you're not having to chase souls to get health back. Oh, and sometimes the souls are evil and will float to you with the good ones, and you have to dodge those while touching the good ones. So, you ever been to a bar and a girl comes up to you, but she brings her ugly and obnoxious friend with her, and you want to keep the hottie but ditch the grenade at the same time? That's basically what you're doing here. When levels end, it's really abrupt and just says, "Mission accomplished" on the screen. Sometimes the levels end with Drake getting killed, like that's part of the story. I don't really think it's accurate to say that the mission is accomplished then, but whatever. So after the first time this happens, he ends up in this spirit realm, and these total assholes for statues tell Drake he sucks at his job, rightfully so, and then they send him back to try again. This starts one of the worst parts of the game. When you die, you come back here, then a 10-second timer starts, and during that time, the statues talk shit and tell you you're incompetent, then you go back to the beginning of the level. There are no checkpoints in this, so if you screw up at the end of the level, you do the whole thing over again and getting insulted for 10 seconds. I'm guessing this is to mask loading times, maybe, but I'd rather just watch an extra 10 seconds of loading times than listen to this every time. You will curse this game every time you die because of this. The whole sequence reminds me of an old Yosemite Sam cartoon where every time he'd die chasing after Bugs Bunny, he'd end up back in hell, and then Satan would make some wisecrack and then send him back up to try again. I miss when cartoons were dark in like normal, healthy ways. The levels themselves are blocky, ugly, and very plain. They also have a timer, like all of them do, so you never feel like you have time to look around at anything, which I guess is a blessing in disguise, but you're always scrambling to find your objective. The game's levels aren't actually that difficult, and looking back, the timer does allow you the chance to figure out what you're doing if you get lost, but it still feels totally unnecessary. Some levels have you collecting special souls of your other dead clan members, or you have to reach a boss and kill them, stuff like that. But as I said, as soon as you do what you have to do, it'll throw up mission accomplished out of nowhere, and then it's some cutscene, then you're on to the next level. Also for the cutscenes, Drake sounds like he's working with a room temperature IQ, and he kind of looks to me like a tiny male model version of Solomon Grundy. As you progress, you'll get to the first boss, who killed me a few times, until I realized that I can just stand behind this desk and shoot him until he dies. Any of the levels that require platforming are just the worst, and the platforming gets harder as you progress. There's one level where you have to go down an elevator shaft, and you'll have to get into an elevator. Then as the top opens, you run out of it, and taking too long from the terrible wall running to make it out will trigger the elevator to fall and you'll die. After making it out, you'll start your descent down to the bottom floor. Falling too far there will also kill you. Like, there's no falling damage even, it's just instant death. Later in the game, you need to reach a room with fans blowing upward, and you have to jump on the fans to get shot up to a platform to progress. You need to get to the door with the green light, but take too long and then the light turns red, and you have to jump down again and try another platform. The camera makes this super hard to aim for, not only to get onto the fan without falling next to it, but also to land on the platform you need to be on. Just by sheer luck, I made it out of this thing. The platforming was easier in Battletoads on the Nintendo, if that means anything here. I fought another boss where she killed me once, then on my second try I walked up to the door, let it open, and then I tried an old trick from World of Warcraft that I remembered, and I basically shot her, then backed away from the door so that she was the only one who came out, and I killed her without her friends coming along. The last levels are the absolute worst. The platforming here is really narrow. The eyeballs I mentioned earlier are not just on the ground, but right on the ledges as well. So you have to jump, then try to aim Drake so he'll shoot the eyeballs, which is tons harder than it sounds. And then you run up the ledge and get him on top without him bouncing away from it, more than likely off the ledge you were just on so that you'll fall off the whole level. He automatically moves forward a little when you're aiming and firing in midair, so I thought, maybe I'll just use the machine guns and I can spray and pray and I'll hit the eyeballs easier that way. But those actually move you really far back when you jump straight up and fire them. So then I fell off the level that way instead. It took me about a dozen tries or so to hit the eye, get up there, then jump to the next platform without the eye opening up and killing me. There's 3 or 4 levels of this misery. There's also a level where you get the artifact and you have to equip it in place of one of your guns, and then you use that to fly around the level and collect more clan souls. Then you have to get down to the exit. The game gives you a hint for the next to last boss, which is that ghost assassin, that says to damage him you have to slow down time. This is total BS, and I just stood there and shot at him until he died. The last boss took me around 15 tries before I finally killed him. It really felt like 30 because of the statues though. He'll kill you in about 2 hits, and you have to run up to this thing with teeth, shoot the teeth, then it exposes something that makes the boss vulnerable, and then you have to shoot all the dragons until they're dead. This was the only time that slowing time seemed to work, and I still don't know if it was that or just dumb luck. After that's done, you get a cutscene where the Master is back to life and tells Drake that this is only the beginning, something like that. Maybe in that one he's called Drake the Dragon because all the other guys are dead. It doesn't matter because everybody hated this game when it came out and nothing else is done with it. I guess they had plans for other games and animated features and stuff, like they really thought this was going to take off, but obviously that never happened. It could have been really funny if they leaned into this broken game thing and just made everything else that they did as terrible as this. The animated show could have looked like that Russian Itchy and Scratchy cartoon way back on classic Simpsons. So there you have it, everybody. Drake of the 99 Dragons finally made it to Bad Games Summer. And I know that this has been reviewed many times on YouTube before, but I'm happy to put my own stamp on it as well. I mean, I actually don't know if happy is the right word, but you know what I mean. And with that, Bad Games Summer is done for another year. I already have a list of games for next year, and of course I still have more videos coming up on this channel, so make sure you subscribe to keep updated. Thank you very much to all of you for watching, and we're going to do this again soon. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got in the links next to it.